This week's episode was brought to you by Amy, Shay S., and Francis. Thank you, Amy, Shay S., and Francis. It's with the generous support of listeners just like you that helps keep the whole rabbit's quantum teleportation grid charged with enough spiritual energy to penetrate the astral defense matrix surrounding the subterranean reptoid bases, so we can warp ourselves inside to covertly liberate the body clones who've been genetically modified to believe they are the popular celebrities they were intended to replace, and re-educate them in the trade of farming organic butter lettuce to feed our genetically modified cyborg bunny army. If you'd like to help feed our cyborg bunny army, or just hear the second half of this episode, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you the extended, uncut version of this episode, but all our full episodes going back since the before times, which are now integrated seamlessly with Spotify for your listening pleasure. But that's not all. I'll send you a 5x5 high-quality vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny cover art at no additional cost, along with instant access to our top-secret Discord server where you can show us all your photos from inside the mothership. Special thanks to Tim Hacker of the Cryptic Chronicles podcast for helping us write and research this and the next episode. Make sure to check out crypticchronicles.com for more strange and otherworldly content. We'd also like to thank all of the generous donations made to our GoFundMe dedicated to help Heka Astra in her dire time of need. We've raised almost $1,000 towards helping her endure a shady, short-notice eviction, and one step closer to getting a tiny roof over her head during the cold Canadian winter, but have a ways left to go before we can afford her an RV and rental space for it so she can continue her leatherworking trade from home to support herself and 2 pets. If you'd like to help out, please check out the link in the show's description or just share it on your social media platform of choice. It really helps. We're so appreciative and wish you more positive karma than you can possibly handle. In this week's episode, we do an in-depth profile of the various alien races common to UFO abduction and conspiracy lore that the weird guy on public transit tried to warn you about. In the free version of the episode, we discuss the ultra-secret subterranean base beneath Dulce, New Mexico, alongside the multicultural cast of Reptilian and Grey aliens who fraternize with government employees who exchange human vital fluids for experimental technology. In the second half of the show, we continue our profiling with Tim Hacker's research on the bizarrely attractive space hippies from Lyra and the Pleiades, before expanding on the mysterious bulb-headed nerds from Arcturus, who secretly protect the human race from a fleet of ships in the 5th dimension. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Yeah, reptilian women have 2 dicks.
Nuh-uh.
Reptiles have cloacas.
What's a cloaca?
It's also chickens have it. Instead of penis and vagina, the male and the female both have cloacas, and they touch cloacas, and it's called a cloacal kiss. When one bird is on top of another bird, and then they just touch their little cloacas together.
Do you think our reptilian overlords also have cloacas?
Yeah.
I think they do.
I just told you they got 2 dicks. Well, at least the females.
They have cloacas!
Hello everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we do more than just tease you with the facts we know about UFO abductions, different cultural mythologies they relate to, and the similarities between them while citing multiple witness reports. Nay, we dig down into the subterranean rabbit holes dug out by not just secret elements of the shadow government, but also the ancient alien inhabitants of Earth, who have lived here since time immemorial, or at least that's what they want us to think, because this week we're discussing the menagerie of different alien species from both this world and the ones beyond. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, the Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by the Syrian dog star damsel, Marisama.
Woo! Greetings, Earthlings.
The master of the missing metamaterials, Malachor 5.
This life form sends their salutations.
The luscious louche lady, Heka Astra.
Hello. Hello.
And, of course, the miraculous Mr. Tim Hacker, host of the famous Cryptic Chronicles podcast, who contributed the vast majority of content for this episode.
I'm definitely not secretly a reptilian. Don't even think that.
After this episode, please visit crypticchronicles.com to check out his amazing show, or he'll blast you with his mind control beams.
True.
In this episode, the beginning of what looks to be a two-part series, we are discussing the menagerie of alien races, which are rumored to not only exist, but interact with humanity on a regular basis. To be upfront, a great deal of it could be understood as, well, nothing but speculation, wishful thinking, and mostly entertainment. But there is a deeper reason. For those with a sincere curiosity in UFO and UAP phenomena, as it's now known, a little bit of digging suggests quite convincingly that the government and private sector aerospace companies they do business with are likely reverse engineering what could only be described as otherworldly technology that is firmly within their possession. As time goes on, the accounts of whistleblowers like Bob Lazar, Ryan Graves, and David Grush seem to be sincere and more credible, even if revelations have come at their personal expense. We've even discovered that human mythology from various cultures reflects our modern understanding and experiences of UFOs, and occasionally even their strange occupants. But to go any further would be to involve rumor, hearsay, and speculation. Admittedly, that is the territory into which we are wandering today. But why? In short, it's because mythology does not need to be profoundly ancient to be important to the human experience. Humans are myth makers and projected into areas they do not fully understand. While this might seem quaint, or even a flaw to some people, our myths often conceal elements of truth which are felt rather than known. Aside from this, many of the folks who have dedicated years of sober efforts towards official disclosure were introduced to the topic of ufology through myths like the ones we're discussing today. Specifically, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp on the JRE both admit to finding their entry into this strange world through John Lyra, an aviator who set multiple records and flew cargo planes for the CIA during the Vietnam era, intermixed with some of the first legitimate evidence of Area 51, stealth bombers, etc. John Lyra also spun yards that heavily reflected some of the wacky plot points we will discuss in this very episode. In fact, John Lyra is mentioned multiple times in various sources I came across while researching for this stuff. Fun fact, he's also the son of Bill Lyra, the dude who invented or founded the company that invented the Learjet, so he's like connected. Whether that makes him more or less credible is up to you. Now, although quick to renounce any solid belief in these particular stories, both Knapp and Corbell are upfront that while they have been approached by many insiders, the highest and most connected ones nearly always claim that they are firmly against disclosure, citing that most people are simply not ready to know the whole truth. If any of what we discuss today happens to be even slightly true, you'll be able to imagine why. After all, if there is something worth hiding from the public, as is suggested, one of the best ways is to launch a successful disinformation campaign by mixing elements of truth with a bunch of incredible lies. As such, it's going to be up to you to decide what is science fiction and what may be science fact.
It's a good point you made there that David Grush and the other two gentlemen that were with him at the congressional hearing about the UFOs, under oath, especially at that level of court, you will go to prison if you're lying, if they find out you're lying.
Yeah, absolutely you will. Or if you say too much, that like gives away too much of the tactical surprise.
Yeah, and on the JRE, they did bring up an interesting note about the gentleman sitting behind David and kind of tapping him every now and then, kind of making sure that he doesn't say something he shouldn't, because either he will go to jail or get in trouble with the military that are trying to hide this stuff and it's classified info, or tapping him on the shoulder so he can kind of guide him maybe on what he can and cannot say that is technically a lie or not. You know, somebody can just go up there and have a really smart lawyer and just be like, you could say these things because they can't prove, it's a lie or not. So I don't know, it could be disinfo, it could be the real deal. It's just an interesting scenario. And all that stuff's important because, like you said, it's going to sound like science fiction. Like, this is probably going to be one of the more wacky episodes if you take this whole thing super serious.
Yeah, we've kept it a bit straight-laced into like what we know and then comparing it to mythology, but now we're going to go like a step further.
Yeah, because there is like a lore or a narrative that this, let's call them the community that researches this stuff and that's trying to stay on top of what is going on in our galaxy and what the hell are these alien races doing in a political sense? Are they coming to Earth for a reason? Those things concern this whole lore that this community is trying to keep together, and it's going to get kind of wacky. But it's important to know how we got to this point. So buckle up, get your ceramide armor powered up, load up your bolt guns, and charge your laser beams, because it's time to get into the topic.
Purge the Xenos for the Emperor.
Now, my source for intel on the Grey and Reptilian class of alien comes from a certain Thomas Costello, who was, as the legend goes, a security guard turned whistleblower for the highly classified Dulce base, a place which the mainstream says only exists in conspiracy literature, of which there is quite a bit. Tracing the thread of this conspiracy literature back to its source, it reveals a mysterious author who goes by the name of Branton, which is thought to be a foreshortening of Bruce Allen de Walton, who some have speculated is an indication that he is none other than the brother of Travis Walton, the very same one we discussed last week, who is known for being one of the most well-documented UFO abduction cases. Of course, that's merely speculation. On his archaic, eye cancer-inducing bright orange angel fire website dubbed Brantonium, Branton claims to have been a regular abductee as a child, given alien implants, and slowly indoctrinated by quasi-Masonic and New Age cults into becoming a sleeper agent for highly classified Black Book projects until he found Jesus Christ and began leaking all the secrets to us. It is from Branton's writings that Thomas Costello's information and interviews can be found, although within said writings, specifically the Dulce book, Thomas Costello made a daring escape from a joint alien US government deep underground facility near Dulce, New Mexico, and absconded with hundreds of photos and classified documents from one of its hundreds of exits to the surface after disabling the alarm and camera systems. These sensitive photos and documents were supposedly kept as a dead man's switch that was to be released after his disappearance or death, and are known widely in ufology as the Dulce Papers. It was around the time of his escape that Branton is thought to have interviewed Thomas Costello and spilled the beans to him. Likewise, if the bean dip tastes a little funny, you know where I source the ingredients. It seems worth noting that this particular bean dip became popular amongst ufologists involved in the federal investigations around cattle mutilation in the 70s, and contains elements which reflect the fears and speculations around those highly bizarre, unsolved events. It's possible that this is where the truth and disinformation was most heavily injected into the dip as ufologists and federal/state investigators began fraternizing. Likewise, a lot of this stuff comes from alarmists rather than like the spiritualists and the starseed folks and the New Agers, but we will get to that, especially when we talk about the good guys. But let's talk about the bad guys for a second. Thomas Costello is thought to have gotten his fancy schmancy security gig from working at Rand Corp in Santa Monica, California in 1977, before he was transferred to the Dulce facility, which is sometimes designated as the Archuleta installation.
Okay, Rand Corp, by the way. Kubrick knew about this, and he talks about it in Dr. Strangelove. He calls it the Bland Corp, I believe, in the movie. Join the Discord. We can talk about it if you want.
Man, it makes you really wonder what Kubrick knew, you know? Like, what did he know about these aliens? Because if you're going to take the analogy of the Overlook Hotel, then that means the Earth is a hotel for visitors from the stars, which is like a major theme in the symbolism of the film. According to the literature, Thomas's transfer to this top secret Dulce base facility worked similar to how Bob Lazar was transferred to S4 in Area 51, from where he used to work in Los Alamos Labs. Although contrary to Bob, who was flown into Area 51 on a secure jet every day, Thomas commuted by way of a deep underground tube shuttle system. In his interview, Thomas says the upper-level human-occupied section of the Archuleta installation was started all the way back in 1937 and reached completion in the mid-60s when, having increased in size dramatically, became networked to numerous other bases through a vast tunneling system. Costello, even as head of security for the Archuleta installation, did not have access or knowledge of these other connected bases. It was purely on a need-to-know basis, as it always is. The lower sections of the base are thought to encompass a vast network of naturally occurring tunnels, of which the Native Americans have many myths, which include various dangerous, otherworldly inhabitants, including Bigfoot. These deeper tunnel systems are even sometimes illuminated by phosphorus pentoxide, which he says the Greys do well to avoid for some reason. Well, I've done my best to separate information about the Reptilians and the Greys. Costello sometimes refers to them under the same umbrella term of aliens, which makes it difficult to distinguish. For the most part, we will be first discussing the Reptilians, and secondly, the Grey aliens.
Okay, hold up. Now, Why exactly would a bunch of reptilians and greys be collaborating with government agents in a secret US facility under the desert?
Well, you see, Heka Astra, the big idea is that secret elements of the US government struck a secret deal with the Reptilians and Greys to allow the abduction of certain civilians so that they could be experimented on genetically in exchange for alien technology, which we then use to reverse engineer and make our own weapons of war. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, the upper section of the tunnels were created using technology from Rand Corporation's highly efficient bore or mole machine capable of melting rock using nuclear-powered wolfram graphite-tipped drill cones, which leave the walls smooth as if coated in obsidian glass.
This was on an episode of Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Apparently, these things are real, but it's in one of those places where we're not really supposed to care or know about them, but they do exist. It has crazy implications that we have machines that do that, and they imply the presence of stuff we're not supposed to know about, even if there are no aliens, etc. So there are some militarized underground bases somewhere doing something, whether they're full of aliens or not. Well, who knows? Let's talk about if they are, huh? One of the reasons for tunneling so prolifically is due to its joint operation with the race of reptilians, which are more properly referred to as reptoids. Don't misspecie them. According to Costello, these are the original inhabitants of the planet and are native to tunnel systems below the Earth, which also seems worth mentioning. They have a complicated caste system.
So not every one of them were digging the tunnels, I'm sure.
No.
Yeah, that's the
But-
lower class of reptoids that had to do the work.
It's ruled by ladies, if I remember correctly.
Well, it seems very like how beehives or insect colonies are operated.
According to Costello, yes, some reptoids are native to this planet. The ruling caste of aliens are reptilian. The beige or white beings are called the Draco. Other reptilian beings are green, and some are brown. They were an ancient race on Earth living underground. It may have been one of the draconian beings that tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden. Reptoids rightly consider themselves native Terrans. Perhaps they are the ones we call the fallen angels. Maybe not. Either way, we are considered the, quote, squatters here on Earth. So they're a little bit like the trolls from World of Warcraft. They're the original inhabitants of the planet, and the little pink humans are the Johnny-come-latelys, at least according to them.
Or like the Necrons in 40K.
Interesting.
They believe all the planets are theirs. They just
Yeah.
woke up.
They're called Tomb Worlds.
Yep. It's pretty interesting. A lot of similarities here. We can see where they get this inspiration from, clearly.
Yes, this stuff has been around since the 70s, and it's also worth mentioning that it has influenced quite a bit of the science fiction we know and love today.
There's also many different versions of reptilian lore.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we're trying to give you like the whole Rabbits collected narrative version of all these different sources, by the way. We should say that too.
Now, the green and brown reptoids are typically considered the, quote, working class. And as we mentioned earlier, they're tasked with the physical labor. They're like the janitors, the toilet scrubbers, the hatchet people. Now, Costello claims that human and reptoid workers would sometimes clash because the reptoid workers were so serious and had such a get back to work attitude. He further claims that a big part of his job as like the security chief was negotiating the release of human workers who had curiosity will take the better of them. They wandered into reptoid-only territory and subsequently became hostages.
Uh-oh.
Can you give me more information on the reptilian race? What do they do on the 6th level, the area called Nightmare Hall?
To this question, he answers, the worker caste does the daily chores, mopping the latex floors, cleaning the cages, bringing food to the hungry people and other species. It is their job to formulate the proper mixture for the Type 1 and Type 2 beings that the Draco race has created. The, quote, Nightmare Hall that you're talking about is an enclosure with different sorts of cages, fish tanks, and whatever else is needed to contain and feed all the genetic human experiments that go on at the Dulce base. So for instance, they've created tortured monstrosities like Bat Boy and Fish Girl. They got like half frog, half toad, half people, all snarling and growling and slobbering over themselves, begging the guards to just please kill me. It's a good time. The working caste works at the labs as well as the computer banks. Basically speaking, the reptilian races are active at all levels of the Dulce base. There are several different, quote, races of aliens that work on the east section of level 6. No doubt some collaborating, quote, Nordic factions are included, according to Branton. So he's saying in this secret government military base, you got aliens like just walking around and they're all working together with the humans. It's really an interesting picture they paint. Now, referring to the lower levels, he says it's a section commonly called the alien section. The Draco are undisputed masters of the 5th, 6th, and 7th levels. The humans are second in command of those levels. I had to argue with one large draconian boss frequently. Now, this boss's name is difficult to verbalize. It's fascist. I usually just called him Karsh, and he hated it.
Sounds like car fascist.
Which is peculiarly on brand for what we discussed regarding the chariot and how fascists love the wheel and conquerors and the reptilian-minded folks on Earth. Is that an inside joke or just a funny coincidence? I don't know. He also says, the draconian leaders are very formal when talking to the human race. These ancient beings consider us a lower race. Karsh called me Leader Costello, but it was used in a sarcastic way. However, the worker caste is friendly enough as long as you allow them to speak first.
You mentioned this reptilian leader, Harfast. Do you know anything about him? Like where he's from? Is he from the Earth or some other planet?
His name means Keeper of the Laws. They received their name after they reached the age of, quote, awareness. They do not recognize time as an important factor in being aware the way humans do. Upon their age of awareness, they are cognitive of the station or position they are destined to fulfill. At that time, they choose or allow someone to choose their name. He kind of dodged the question, but he continues. Their name will include the position they hold and several personally chosen letters. Each letter has a personal meaning known only to the alien and one that chose their name. Since Karsh's name means keeper of the laws, his name includes Kash, which means memory or keep. And it's the base word for the Akashic record, he says. And fascist, which means law, or the base word for fast or bind. And as we know, the fasci is like a bound bundle of sticks, so like whoever wrote this has to know a little bit about this stuff. He then says, reptilians choose to be not only private, but secretive of their location of their natal birthplace. To them, birth or emergence of life is considered as one of the sacred rites of life. So it sounds like they have an egg hatching day, and it's very special to them.
Whoa, I'm naked. Who's the mama? Where's the mama? Oh, hi. How you doing?
Man, I'll have to bring this up in a future episode. It's just, there's too much cascading about the stuff I was talking about in the chat with scales and laws and all of it tying to the next tarot episode. But we'll have to wait.
So their birthday is very important. They're all satanic.
That's one of the key hallmarks of this particular literature from the 70s is if you dig deep enough, they're all somehow either purposefully or inadvertently associated with a Luciferian agenda.
Well, you know, what's interesting about what the meaning of his name is, Keeper of the Laws, is this like dissimilar to Iowas, you know, dictating the book of the law to the prophet? You know, this is almost the same thing. It's
Jehovah is also the god of law.
Well, if you believe whatever they told Jimmy Carter, you know, these are the folks that created both us and our religions to keep us in line. So, I mean, who knows?
There definitely is a Hindu connection here, but
Yeah, especially because you mentioned that they're a caste-based society, which one of the only civilizations left that uses a caste system is, you know, Indians and Hindus.
And we do know that elements of the Nazi party were like gaga over that whole idea. They chose the wheel as the symbol of their whole fascist movement. And so the name Car Fascist it's just dead on the money.
really quick, everybody knows the Triforce from the Legend of Zelda. It originated from the Hoji family. It was a shogunate dynasty. And at one point, the head of the Hoji family talked to a goddess. And she told him, you're a good person. And, you know, this is the origins of the Triforce symbol. It's not called that over there. It's called the Three Scales. I forgot the Japanese name for it, though. After she basically blessed him and his whole family, so long as they, like, maintain order and their position as a royal family, that they will be successful for a very long time. And then she turns into a dragon and three scales fall off of her body in the shape of a Triforce.
Whoa. So yeah, I mean, reptilians and dragonoids come up quite a bit in our mythology, and they usually are associated with royalty, power, conquering, all the fun stuff. I think it is good to know some of this wackety schmackety stuff to see where it was either borrowed from ancient myth or how it corresponds to it in some bizarre way. As if when humans start to mythologize, these elements are built in. But, we'll come back to this stuff as time goes on.
I think another kind of fun connection is even in Chinese lore and Japanese lore, there's like a hierarchy with dragons as well. So you have like common dragons and imperial dragons. And sometimes the only difference, like to be able to tell them apart, is how many fingers they have. So like a common dragon, I think, had 4, and like an imperial dragon had 5, like toes on each claw kind of thing. It's kind of interesting overlap, but there's even like a caste system with these dragons.
Yeah, there is. So female abductees report being inseminated by aliens. Are they trying to hybridize our species?
Costello says, yes, they are breeding slave warriors for the upcoming war with the alien races. The Nordic races, ? Asks Branton. The serpentine races are in orbit around the Earth, Venus, and Mars.
Abductees reported that aliens can pass their bodies and that of the abductee through window glass. Is this a feat of magic achieved by advanced technology, or is it a psychic power?
The aliens have mastered atomic matter. They can go through walls like we go through water. It's not magic, just physics. We can learn to do the same thing. It has to do with controlling atoms at will. For that, you have to become a Scientologist, though.
What are the eating habits of the aliens? Are they carnivorous?
Costello replies, that depends on whether they are the ones of the Grey worker caste or of the Reptilian worker caste or one of the higher developed Draconian leaders. I'll talk about the Greys later, but to continue, the working caste of the Reptilians eat meat, insects, and large variety of plants, including vegetables and fruit. They prefer their meat raw, or at least very fresh, but have come to learn to enjoy some cooked meat like rare beefsteak.
Smart.
So they kind of eat everything. Does anyone know if you can feed real reptiles like apples and oranges and stuff like that? Or
Yeah. Some of them eat a plethora of vegetables as well as insects.
Yeah, it depends on the species.
Yeah.
Interesting. Then he says, unlike the Greys, they eat frequently and usually carry or send for food on their breaks. The ruling caste is secretive about their foods. They have created several dietary myths that they carefully embellish when the chance arrives.
Because your theory is we're going to go down there and have a donkey barbecue and I'm going to furnish the ass, right?
One of their favorite legends involves one of their ancestors' ability to eat an entire flock of geese in one sitting. They rarely eat in sight of the other species.
Some instinct stuff going on here.
They're just all standing around the water cooler, talking amongst each other, and the reptilians like,
Ah, yes, my great-grandfather, Kashismurka, would eat a whole flock of geese in one sitting.
the humans are like, oh, nice.
And then they go into a bathroom stall to eat their lunch.
He says they carefully choose their food, then carry their meal to their quarters. It was only when dignitaries arrived at the base did they join with their meals. He also says they enjoy the same foods we do, and that they have been seen secretly munching on a freshly found snail.
No real human being likes escargot. It must all be for them.
Now then he says the human-looking replicants eat some cooked vegetables. They rely on vitamins and liquid protein for sustenance. If they have to eat on the surface world, they can eat whatever they're served, but as soon as possible, they regurgitate. So this would be like the Men in Black, okay? He's saying that the reptoids are creating humanoid-looking replicants who can act human up to a certain point, including eating food, then they have to barf it up.
And they really like photographs. It's a Blade Runner joke.
I also find it really interesting that sharing a meal in the same setting is more of an intimate bonding ritual for them. Because if you hear any kind of like really important business meetings or even political negotiations are often done over a meal.
Right. It's a very formal and established thing. You know, we're going to have dinner and talk.
It's just because they're all reptiles, that's all.
That means it's serious business if you're having dinner with them.
Hey, we're going to have a sit down with Carfascius over there in Jersey with Tony Soprano. He wants to have a sit down.
I brought 10 turkeys.
Tony Soprano would love that.
It's fantastic. It's stuffed with melted dry ragout. Yeah? Help yourself, you fat f***.
He then says their digestive systems frequently fail to process food properly. The engineered beings have a special diet created for their dietary needs. The mixture includes several organ foods blended with plasmatic fluids, amniotic liquids, and parasitoplasm materials. These unique, quote, animals also enjoy occasional green plants, usually grasses or lettuce. The creatures that are designed to become warriors eat protein-filled liquids.
Get pumped.
Yeah, they gotta get swole, you know? Branton then claims that some abductees claim the reptoids are capable of speedily creating a clone of a human's body. They then transfer the soul mind energy matrix of the abductee to the clone and then consume the original body, which still holds the emotional residue that they crave. Ideally, this can be done without the abductee noticing they've been placed in a new body. It is said the emotional energy the reptoids feed off of get them high, like hard drugs for humans. So if you notice a dimple or a mole or an extra toe, suddenly it's possible that you've been transferred to a cloned body and your original one has been eaten by reptilians for your own emotional loosh energies, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's like a fucked up anime or something.
That's actually what the vaccines are for, is so they can just poison the reptilians when they do this.
No, I don't think so.
Cut. So while we've talked about the reptilians who identify Earth as their native planet and dwell deep within secret tunnel systems, both natural and constructed by the military, what about the ones off-world? Where did they come from? Are they similar to the ones we've discussed so far? What is their unique story in the grand scheme of things? Costello alludes to their existence but says little of them. After all, he's merely a security guard at a secret military installation underneath the desert.
And to be honest, that's much more believable than some of the rest of the stuff we're going to get into, to be honest. But
this is where the mythology gets really weird, because if you continue reading the Dulce papers, it indicates that there was conflict between the humans and the aliens, which then led to these extragalactic forces of various different races subsuming the ones that are currently on Earth. And then suddenly there's extraterrestrial factions at play. And that's what we're going to be discussing next, basically. So let's talk a little bit about where the Dracos are supposed to be from, besides Earth.
Draco is a constellation in the far northern sky, of which Thuban is its alpha star. Draco is circumpolar in the northern hemisphere, which means that it can be seen at any time of the year in those areas, the northern hemisphere. Now, to think about exactly where this constellation is, it's just look at the North Star, and it's somewhere around there.
Polaris is the North Star, and it doesn't technically move that much, but Draco is right below the Dipper on the Big Dipper formation.
Right, because the very tip of the Big Dipper is Polaris. Not the side with the scoop, but the handle part. This constellation goes in a circle from our perspective, around the star every night. And it's not the only constellation that does it. Like the whole sky moves in a circle. And if you were to stand at the North Pole and just look straight up, it would just move in a perfect circle. Now, the ancient astronomers depicted its constellation ring path like a dragon biting its own tail sometimes, or coiled up dragon, not unlike a giant cosmic snake. And in China, they even said it was like a big black turtle.
Oh.
And the constellation itself, it looks like a letter S on its side with a head on its left side, I guess. And it looks like a snake that's kind of like slithering in motion. And like I said, every day it goes one lap around Polaris, the North Star.
Which is interesting because, okay, if Polaris is our North Star now, like you said, the Dipper rotates around it throughout the 4 seasons. If you were to superimpose it on top of itself, it would look a bit like a swastika. And then further out, you have Draco circling it with the swastika as it turns, basically. And that's why the reptilians are fascists. Continue.
Right. Good evidence.
And, everybody's like, oh, the pyramids, the eye and the pyramid, right? Like that's like a reptilian symbol. And, they have some evidence to say that when it seems that the Egyptian pyramids are designed to have one side facing north with an entrance passage perfectly aligned so that Thuban would be visible at night and it would shine through.
And that's because Polaris wasn't always the pole star, right?
Yeah, it's a thing called precession in astronomy. And the next time that Thuban will be our North Star again will be in the year 21,000.
That's a little ways away.
Maybe not for a reptile.
Aha. But back in ancient Egyptian days, Thuban was the pole star.
Yes. And the traditional name name of Alpha Draconis, which is Thuban, the name of that star, it means head of the serpent. So it's always been known to be this reptile-focused human concept of what's going on in the stars. And Egypt wasn't the only civilization to give this constellation importance either over time. And a lot of them, it was kind of in a fearsome manner as well. Greek myths tell us that Draco was one of the Titan-like creatures battled during the Gigantomachy. And Gigan means giant, which isn't a Titan. It's just different gods and Titans or whatever combinations f***ing each other and making different big f***ing beasts.
It's kind of interesting too because, you know, we had dinosaurs on our planet not too long ago, and that's kind of an iteration of that. But the concept of dragons, a mythological creature as a real animal, could have been related to that old golden age of the Draconis on Earth.
Could be. It could go back many times. There could have been like 3 or 4 times before.
And there's reasons why it shows up in our lore and our mythology is because that was an older age that we just don't have access to that, you know, knowledge and information anymore.
Draco was eventually defeated after a 10-year battle with Athena. And, you know, this was a big war with all the gods and Gigans. And when she defeated it, she tossed it into the northern sky, and on its way up, it got tangled on itself as it flew, and it froze in space that way forever in the north.
Just like in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, and there's another really cool, brutal anime called Fist of the North Star that has some of this stuff in it too. Japan, for a time, they forbade North Star worship because they said it controlled over the wills and plans of man. So leave it alone.
I love it because this stuff does overlap with real mythology in some bizarre way. I think that's why it's fun to talk about it. So in terms of modern alien mythology, is this where the reptoids are from?
Yes and no, because there's different reptilian-like races, and then there's the ones that are from this part of the galaxy, or from our perspective, you know, the sky. So that was like the Earth myths that have scary connections to what the lore that the community talks about in this galactic history. This is the home of the Draconian Empire. The life forms from this star system are said to live up to their name's origin. They look like reptiles or snake people. Some call them lizzies, reptoids, dinoids, saurian, which I like a lot. It's like a dinosaurian. And this doesn't mean that all lizard-like aliens come from Draco, like I said, which would mean that their behaviors would differ too. And in this grand epic tale of the stars, it would only be right to have a good side faction and a bad side faction. Now, the Draconian Empire is the bad faction. At least that's what the good guys tell us anyway. This race of aliens are said to be master geneticists. The Draconian Empire has existed for billions of years. In that time, it is said that they are responsible for creating many different races across the stars. Now, that quote-unquote fact has led this race to see themselves as a god race in comparison to their creations. And a god in their eyes is tasked with ruling over its own subjects, or lesser life forms that were created by the Empire. It is said that Draconians are extremely adept in mental feats. They're extremely smart, with a fascination for controlling others. So they use their brains to do this. They've gone and conquered a lot of the stars. And in order to, I guess, rule, there's got to be some sort of technology or method of travel to maintain your empire. That's like the most important thing. I talked about it in the Chariot episode. And this is why, according to the lore, they are focused on conquering and controlling the Orion constellation. Their main bases are said to be in Orion, specifically in the Bellatrix system. This is, of course, the Draconian effort to gain control of what I like to call an ultimate weapon, known as the Orion Gateway. So this giant super portal.
That's very interesting because so often these reptoids are referred to as part of the Orion Empire.
Yeah, it's a joint evil side. The Orion Empire and the Draconian Empire are like the Axis powers in space, essentially.
They crave control, and they're going to do it from the galaxy of Orion. It reminds me a little bit of Men in Black, of the Orion Nebula, and things being hidden in plain sight. Everyone knows where the Orion constellation is. It's funny that that's like the first thing you're ever taught about astronomy, almost no matter where. You're like, see that? That's Orion's belt. That's what the reptilians used to whoop our asses with when we're naughty little monkeys. So as mentioned earlier, wars between Earth native reptoids and humans under the surface helped initiate off-worlders and their exopolitics, subsuming a number of members from both factions. For instance, some reptoids and humans would join the Ashtar Collective, and some reptoids and humans would join the Orion-based factions. And that's where it becomes like a Star Wars good guy versus bad guys. The Ashtars like the rebels, and then the Orions like the Empire. And they even mention this sometimes, like, it's just like Star Wars. It's like, well, it came out around the time that these mythologies came out too, so go figure.
Yeah. There's many different types of draconians, like I said, and they vary. There's the snake men. These reptilian creatures are often seen by abductees. They are about 6 to 8 feet tall, upright, with lizard-like scales, greenish to brownish in color, with claw-like four-fingered webbed hands. Their faces are said to be a cross between a human and a snake, with a central ridge coming down from the top of the head to its snout. Adding to their serpent-like appearance are the eyes, which have vertical slits in their pupils and golden irises. Some abductees describe the face as somewhat dinosaurish.
The Eye of Sauron.
Yeah, could be. The lidless gaze. There's also the winged Draco, or the quote-unquote Mothmen, the pterosaurians, or winged serpents. Winged draconians that have the ability to fly. And some of them don't even have to use their wings. It's just there to look cool, I guess. And their eyes are large and red, and supposedly have an inescapable hypnotic stare.
I like these guys. That's my favorite so far.
I don't know a whole lot about Mothmen, so this is, or the winged reptiles. This is all new to me.
It's been said that if you work in like the Dulce installation and you're just a normie human that's being brought into the fold for the first time, and you cross one of these winged Dracos in the hall, sometimes they just go spectacularly insane. Like their brains can't handle it, and they radiate this aura of intensity, and it makes people instantly afraid. It's like you need to roll really high to avoid being paralyzed, essentially, by their aura.
Yeah, and this stuff I'm talking about here is from Alex Collier, and there's like some Exopedia or something like that, some UFOlogy Wikipedia-like page. That's where I'm reading this stuff from. And then there's something he describes simply as the tall reptoid reptilians who control various smaller reptilian, quote-unquote, gray species. The gray reptilians, which reproduce via polyembryonogamy, egg hatcheries, and other cloning, of which, again, there are several species. See the rays that we're going to talk about later that are separate from this reptoid class, I guess. He also describes a particularly malevolent, iguana-like, dark-skinned sorcerer priest class that is often seen wearing hooded robes and stands about 5 feet tall. So it's like a little dragonborn mage in D&D or something.
That is the work of a House Lalu counselor fetishizing Argonians. The origin of the book itself is disgusting, but the fact that you want me to read such perversion for you is even more pathetic.
Then there's a shorter 4 to 5 foot tall race of reptilian amphibians that have been described as appearing like frog-faced lizards. Another species is the orange, which is kind of weird to me. Some suggest that the orange are so-called hybrid race with partial reptilian-like features yet possessing human-like reproductive organs, and even certain artificial or cybernetic features. I think this is where we get Carrot Top from.
It just means that Heka Astra's right. It says here specifically they have human-like reproductive organs, which seems to imply they have cloacas. Holy shit.
Humans don't have cloacas, though.
No, they're saying that the oranges have human-like reproductive organs, which imply the other ones don't.
So gross.
I mean, it makes sense. You know, birds come out of eggs, reptiles come out of eggs.
They created the oranges so they could have dicks.
Two
So according to people like Dan Winner, Elena Danon, and like I said, Alex Collier, who is an Andromedan contactee. So he is like remote viewing, psychic contacting the Andromedan galaxy as an ambassador of some sort. But they say that the Draconian Empire exists with a caste system implemented, not unlike the ones that we would find in our inner Earth that Luke was talking about earlier. One half of the race is said to be the warrior class, which are 7-8 foot tall and feared throughout the universe for their excellent combat skills. Then there is a royal caste known as the Siakar, and they, quote-unquote, range from 14 to 22 feet tall and can weigh up to 1,800 pounds. They do have winged appendages and are awesome beings. They're extremely clairvoyant and extremely clever, and they can also be extremely sinister.
How can we, the public, go after or expose an alien culture which is covert and hidden?
Costello replies, go for the best shot. That means go after the reptoid. They stay near the surface. They choose to try to hide to avoid contact. They are soldiers doing a job, and usually there are 2 or 3 at each job site. They are, quote, manning a remote post. They are not to bother the humans unless they are endangering the post. Most of them are not hostile and won't kidnap you. They may blast you with a flash gun that will paralyze you. you won't remember the Flash for an hour or two and cause confusion and mild fear. This is definitely what the Men in Black little flashy memory thingies are based on. He explains that these flash guns are issued to like everyone in these secret installations, and they mostly stun people, but they work on aliens and humans, which is why people have them. He says it causes you to black out for a while, and that's when they escape and try and buy time retreating with equipment. And if you know any areas with repeated reptilian sightings, that is where you should look. They are fearsome to meet face to face, and their voices are
Harsh and whispery with heavy S's.
but most of them do understand English, along with several other languages. Wear something with a reptile, but not something violent, like St. George killing the dragon. Apparently, like drink a bottle of Sobe, that lets them know that you're cool with them. Then if you see one, you got to keep your hands open, palms forward with your arms down. That is considered a non-aggressive approach. Do not raise your arms unless told to. He also says don't carry anything in your hands or arms. If he doesn't run, walk slowly towards him. Also, it's important to let him speak first. They consider humans repulsive and hostile and threatening with good reason. Don't try to offer him anything. Don't touch him or anything of his. If he hisses at you, back up a couple feet, but don't look away. It simply means he finds you smelly. Don't try and overpower him. He is stronger than 10 or 12 men. Usually, if he hasn't run so far, he is curious and wants to talk to you. Fight your fear and your thoughts of panic. So that's what to do if you want to actually meet a reptoid, according to Costello.
Well, you certainly can't be afraid. That's like a beacon of like, eat me. It's like eat me tagged on your back.
Yeah, you have to stand up to him. Like, the way JoJo would stand up to an alien race of invaders. You got to be strong. They respect a warrior kind of thing. Okay, I don't think in good conscience we could wrap up the free show without talking about the Greys, because those are the ones everyone knows about. And here's some info on them. Now, they are called the Zetas, most appropriately, since they are said to be from Zeta Reticuli, a double star 39 light years away, which is not very far in terms of how far away stars can be. It's in the constellation Reticulum of the southern hemisphere, though some reside in Orion and Sirius. Those ones are known as the Greys, apparently. And this syncs up with the stuff Malachor was saying. It's understood that these Greys or Zetas have basically been spread all around. They clone their bodies and can tolerate varied environmental conditions. Countless varieties of these things exist, which is important.
The designer life form.
Yes, we'll learn why in a moment, though. Now, there was the basic Zeta in its natural condition of, quote, higher frequencies, very high energy, and could not interact with humans only in dream states or astrally. Now, this seems to reflect some of our sentiment that we were talking about. Like, these beings might be spirit beings, they could be fairies, they could be responsible for fairy lore, and this is part of it. Like, the original Zetas are supposed to be so high frequency, they only exist in the, quote, dream world, okay? Then it says there are Zetas that have been altered to be able to interact with us humans. And this was achieved by placing the alien in a denser environment to step down the frequencies to the physical level with a change in consciousness. And this could be permanent or it could be temporary. Of course, from fairy lore, we know that sometimes they want to take some of us to them, and sometimes they want to become part of our world, and this reflects that. It says here that hybridization was achieved by abducting a suitable female, implanting the hybrid with embryos, and again abducting the female and removing the hybrid from the womb after the gestation period of a few months. And he says there are documents to prove this. This is also something that Hopkins mentioned quite a bit with his clients, that they claimed to sometimes been inseminated and then had the baby taken from them. So we do know that there are people that believe this wholeheartedly and don't seem to be joking about it. Now, it's said that these hybrids can't really survive on Earth, so they were taken aboard the ships. Further researching utilized different scenarios and altered DNA that has been successful, which do enable these hybrid children to survive on Earth, and it has been done before. It then says that Zetas are thought to have ruined their homeworld by accidentally creating black holes while stealing resources from their homeworld on adjoining timelines, which is pretty wild. According to one source,
they had to learn how to adapt. It became a combination of evolving characteristics through living underground plus cloning and genetic alterations to achieve better survival. This involved restructuring
altering their bodies so they would absorb certain frequencies of light beyond the visible, and changes in body functions so that nutrients were absorbed in a different way, apparently through the skin. So that's why some of them eat, and then some of them have to like bathe in a solution of chemicals. It says they built cities underground and gave great thought to the problem of emotion. As a result, they cloned out all physiological responses to emotions. They took out the neurochemical reactions.
Oh man.
That's pretty frightening. The result was there was no varied response. It was the same to everything. They estimate feeling by different degrees of curiosity. It says that they suffered from cell deterioration and a blockage between the spiritual self and the physical self, with the inability to receive spiritual inspiration, which they seemingly began to realize was due to removing all emotional reactions. Cloning had created a weak cellular structure, and there was poor adaptability. They are said to not experience any form of pain, mental or physical. But according to this myth, that's why they're not doing so well. And Travis Walton mentioned that like he just barely touched one and they like fell over. And then he was scared because they didn't show any kind of emotion. So, you know, if this is made up, it's at least based on the testimony of real abductee cases. Nonetheless, it also says they do not have any understanding of the concept of love or even vulnerability and have extremely poor survival instincts compared with humans. They state that they do not have the right chemicals in the body for emotions, and this is why they put organic implants in humans to absorb neurochemicals in our brains secreted by emotions.
They gave up their mojo.
They did. When asked about the little gray aliens, Costello replies that they work for and are controlled by the Draco, the reptoid ruling class. When asked what the Greys are susceptible to, Costello replies, "The Greys are photosensitive. Any bright light hurts their eyes. They avoid sunlight and travel at night. Camera flashes cause them to back up. It could be used as a weapon against them, but they do recover quickly. It could buy enough time to escape. It's also suggested that you use commands or nonsensical words in the form of commands and they will back up."
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun.
What is he saying?
He says their brain is more logical than ours and they do not understand fun. They don't understand poetry either, and what really confuses them is saying things in Pig Latin. Keep that in mind. If you ever need to communicate around a Grey, use Pig Latin. They won't understand it. They said they learned in a hurry and used it against them during the Dulce Wars. So like, if you want to be a secret agent, use Pig Latin.
Dulce Wars?
Yes.
Wasn't there some...
Ixnay on the anal say robe pay.
I'ma disrobe you, then I'ma probe you.
Can Greys read your intentions if you came up behind one?
Yes, they read your intent because they use your body's frequency. The human race broadcasts a frequency that they recognize an electromagnetic pulse. Each person has a slightly different frequency. The difference is what we call personality. When a human thinks, they broadcast strong impulses. In the case of fear, the frequency is loud and easy to recognize. But by the same right, a calm, composed mindset would be far more difficult to recognize, according to Branton.
Can we shield ourselves against their mental control?
He says, we can shield ourselves against them. However, 95% of the human race never try to control their thoughts, and controlling our own thoughts is the best weapon. The average person rarely thinks in a clear pattern. That allows the brain to think in a chaotic way. Control your thoughts, and you can stop the aliens attempting to abduct and control you. Controlling my own thoughts have kept me alive for years.
What did the aliens do with the cow blood and other parts of the mutilated animals? Do they need these fluids for research or survival?
He says, the aliens use the blood and body parts for formula to keep them alive. It's their food, and for the use of growing vats, and for artificial wombs. So it's got a bunch of different purposes, and that's why they core out cows' buttholes. He says, plasma and amniotic fluid are the two most vital ingredients for their lives. Also, the sap of some plants can keep them alive for months. Most of the plants are parasitic in nature, but red grapes and okra plants can also be added to the formula to keep them alive, if they no longer have the, quote, regular formula.
What are the Greys' eating habits?
Both Greys and Reptoids are said to be able to absorb nutrients by bathing in them, but both races eat with their mouths as well. Costello says, the Greys make an attempt to not eat around humans because the odor of it is very unpleasant to any human. They can spend days or weeks between feeding. This nearly clear mixture with a texture of pureed peaches is almost the same in color, like an orange beige goop. The formula includes amniotic water, plasma, and several other body parts. Raw, usually bovine. So they smell like shit.
No wonder they eat privately, like in a bathroom stall.
Makes so much sense.
Nom, 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 nom. These cow bovine secretions are so delicious. Nom, 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 nom.
What if people knew that these were real? Keep my closet door open all night.
But if you'd like to hear more about alien races, specifically the good aliens, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you the extended version of this episode where Tim Hacker will explain to us in photographic detail how the good alien races live and what their whole deal is, but you'll also get all of our extended episodes going back well over 3 years. I'll send you a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny cover art at no additional cost, and you'll get the secret keys to our Discord server where you could talk to us in our secret underground base about what you do with raw bovine cow parts.
Yeah, we're gonna start a Carrot Top defense program. See you there.
Carnivore diet, baby.
Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew pew!